What about those people who say, yeah, okay, all that's great, but why on a practical level, why learn a dying language? Why learn to write
Mhm.
it? Like, what's the point? You're not going to have any pen pals. You're not going to, what books are you going to read? No one's making comics in the Syrian language or in Aramaic. Um, what do you say to those kind of comments if you ever get
Well,
those?
that's a good one. My dad had a period where when I was learning, I was spending so much time with Assyrian. He would actually say, "What are you doing?" I mean, he spoke Assyrian. He likes being Assyrian, but he's like, "Come on, you got to focus and study, and you got to get a job when you're older. How is this going to help you?" But he
Yeah.
eventually kind of came around. When my grandfather died, I wrote a nice poem, and I spoke it, kind of as eulogy, and a lot of people liked it, and it made it showed a sense of closeness and connection, memories, something poetic in Assyrian that felt very close. And I think for me personally, being in touch with who you are gives you more confidence, and confidence can translate into going out into the world and meeting your challenges head on. I think also whether or not what you're studying is has a direct practical application or not. It's massaging the brain. It's you're building new neurons. You're making connections. It's expanding your ability to think and reason. Because anytime you engage in a complex cognitive activity, uh, your understanding of the world, your intelligence, your brain has that certain plasticity, and you're learning more. So even if I won't use Assyrian in a job, the fact that I'm learning it helps me focus and study and learn. And you can learn other things easier when you've developed a habit. And also, there's a certain sense of satisfaction that you get from studying something that brings you joy, because it just
Yeah.
translates into you're a happier person and you relate better to others. And then also, it comes up in conversations with linguists or people that are interested in, wow, where are you from? And it can, bring it be a topic of conversation. And then occasionally, there can be practical benefits, like I've been invited onto some Assyrian TV stations, internet or local, and I've talked, about the process and things I've learned, which has actually helped. And then on top of that, in the script I'm writing for my sci-fi TV series, and also in the young adult book that I've written but I haven't published, Assyrian came into that a little bit because I've used it as
Mm,
an exotic magical language. And also in my series for, my sci-fi series is called Sky City Haya. And
mm,
Haya is the modern westernized pronunciation of the ancient Aramaic word for life, which is Haye. And so Haya, Haye
right.
comes into play because when you're writing something and you have deep historical linguistic knowledge and you want to tell a story, it helps to have that research, already done. And it's something real to pull from, and people respond better to something that's well researched and is real rather than fully made up. Anytime you take from something that you know and you write it rings true. So, on a lot of different levels, it's really great.
Well, for you, what it did when you started to like really get into it and
Mm-hmm.
research it on your own, other than just learning it as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
uh, what did it teach you about your family and your culture that you
Oh
specifically learned through the
my
language,
God!
sort of
I
these?
mean, come on. My mom's dad took a ship for months or however long it took. I can't remember now. From Jordan, I think he left, if I remember correctly, or Kuwait, I can't remember, all the way around the Pacific Ocean through the Philippines and Hawaii and everything to the mainland. My mom didn't know the details of the story because
Mm,
although she could read a little bit, not fluently in that way, no one else that we knew could read well enough to look through that. So when I learned how to read and write, I read those poems. And she finally
yeah.
learned of the details of the journey. Like he stopped off in the Philippines and someone said, "Hey, can I come on the ship with you? Marry me so you can take me." No, no, and just different little stories and little
Wow.
poems and places like a factory they passed by in the water and warships they saw from a distance and how it was to finally reach America. And it's like, wow, I didn't know all these
Whoa.
details. I'm like, yeah. So that was an amazing kind of discovery. Other times, there have been little letters. He has written to people, people have written to him, or other people to other people. And you open up a letter that's like almost falling apart. No one's opened it in 50 years, and it's from 1950 or 60 or 70 or whatever. And you open it up, and oh, it's handwriting. That's tough. And you try to decipher, oh, it's from this person. Oh, yeah, that's my uncle's cousin. Da, 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 da. And it's written to this person. Oh, yeah, that's my grandmother. What did they say? Oh, we're looking forward to seeing you. Oh, that's when they must have come and visit. And so you like all these stories and that thing that
Yeah.
you learn. It's like, wow, you know? And Ninva the other day showed me something that someone had handwritten in a book, like someone had gifted that book to someone else. And
Mm.
you're reading, oh, it's from this person to that person. Oh, cool. Wow. So it brings you so much more in touch with your family because you learn about things that people either wouldn't have remembered to tell you because it's a small detail, or that nobody knew. And so you really connect with the roots of your family and learn a lot more stories. It's all about stories, and reading, it gives you access to those stories. And that story becomes a part of who you are.